Hey, this is Vicki Taufer, and you are listening to From Nothing to Profit.
Welcome to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya, where each week they talk to photographers about what is working in their business now so you can swipe those ideas and grow your business faster.
Good morning, everyone. We are so excited that you are here. It may not be morning where you are, but it is where we are. And we are interviewing one of my favorite people in the world today. Her name is Vicki Taufer, and she has been involved in the photography industry for almost 20 years now. She focuses on artistic portraiture and loves to photograph people, pets, and she does a lot of commercial shoots as well. She is located in Morton, Illinois right now, although she shoots all over the country, and she has a passion for people. Her camera journey has taken her all over the world, and if you follow her, you'll see that she's taught internationally, traveled internationally, and her goal right now is a healthy work-life balance, and I bet you that that's something that we're going to talk quite a bit about.
Well, awesome. Welcome, Vicki. So tell me a little bit more. So where do you live in Illinois? Is it like more like central Illinois? Is it a suburb of Chicago? Tell me more.
Yeah. We are in central Illinois in the smaller town that both my husband and I grew up in. You know, we've moved around a little bit, but have ended up back here. It's about 17,000 people, a couple hours south of Chicago, a couple hours north of St. Louis.
Awesome. Yeah. When I was in college, my buddy's parents moved to Decatur. And so every break we drive out to Decatur, in 16 hours on I-80 all the way out there. It was actually a lot of fun, but I probably wouldn't move to Decatur, but it was a cool experience to have in college.
Right. And that's about an hour from us. But yeah, I mean, the communities all in central Illinois, it's similar in that it's a lot of smaller, industry, farming communities. And then we have the bigger towns of like Peoria, Bloomington, that I guess you would call us a suburb of.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think about you during this time of year with Thanksgiving and Halloween with your pumpkin festival too. So.
Oh yes. We are we claim to be the pumpkin capital of the world. So yeah, in September, our whole town kind of gets turned upside down with, the festival and parades and, pumpkin patches and all kinds of fun stuff.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I think every small town has like a little festival.
Right. Totally.
In Durango, where I am, we have like a cabin fever festival that's like in February after it's been snowing all winter.
Fun.
And it's like this wild week that nobody ever works, and it's actually way too much fun.
Yeah. It sounds like Mardi Gras.
Right. All right. So yeah, let's talk about photography. We don't need to go down too many tangents because we'll be talking about like high school memories before we know it and stuff like that.
No, I will not be.
Okay. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So Vicki, one of our main questions we always ask on our podcast is like, what's working now, or what's a story of what's working right now in the industry or for you personally that you could share with our audience?
Yeah. I would say, you kind of need to know a little bit of our journey for this to probably make sense. But our business being 20 years old, we have run the gamut of, studio in the house, studio in a building, renting a space, buying a building. We're currently in our studio that we originally rented and bought. We've moved back into, which is an old bowling alley that we renovated years ago. And we've had 9 employees at times. And now we're down to very scaled back where I'm the only full-time employee photographer. And then we have a couple part-time and contract employees. And the thing that we're finding that's super interesting now is that I am way more hands-on with the clients. So before I was more of a volume shooter. Maybe I was shooting 300 sessions in a year, but I would shoot, but then I had employees selling, a lot more overhead, a lot more employees doing a lot of the work, selling and doing everything else. Whereas now the business is smaller, which actually is purposeful and fits where we are in our life and with our little kids and where I want to be. But I'm way more hands-on with the clients start to finish in the consultations, in the session, in the ordering appointment. And what I've implemented this year is actually going into the clients' homes, maybe not a new concept, but not really something I had done a lot of myself. So, taking pictures and measurements and giving them suggestions and doing design work of being able to actually digitally show them what, wall groupings would look like in their house. And we have actually to date had multiple of our largest sales to date this year, which is really exciting to me because honestly, since the adoption of our daughter 8 years ago, I really had gone down pretty part-time, and I feel like we were doing the business, but it was more kind of on hold. I kind of just stayed stable, did the work that came in. Whereas this year, we've really tried to amp it up again with our move back from Minnesota to Illinois. Both kids are in school full time, so I have a little more time. So, we tried to go about it this way, and it's been really interesting. Just because I didn't know. Honestly, I feel like I hadn't been involved in the industry, and I wondered, like, man, there's so many more photographers. Are people going to value, this extra time I'm spending with them? Are we going to have the big sales that we used to have? And like I said, we've had multiple sales that have actually surpassed our biggest sales to date in the last 20 years. So that was really exciting for me. That gave me a lot of hope for the industry and where the industry is headed. So for me, it was more about quality, not quantity. So it's not that I'm working harder, doing more sessions, but I am spending more time giving an experience to those clients that they're not going to get from most other photographers. Like that's not the same as someone shooting and burning and giving them a disc. Like there's a place for that, but that's not what I'm offering. So they're going to spend a lot more money, but I'm going to kind of hold their hand throughout that whole process and give them a full experience and guarantee and make sure that, the finished product on their wall is exactly what they wanted.
When you say that, Vicki, it makes me think about you saying other times, like, what I would do if I wasn't a photographer. I would love to work with like interiors and do
Yes.
home design. Do you feel like it's kind of scratching that itch where you're kind of doing both for people?
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny. I can think back 15 years ago and all the clients who would say to me, just because we had put so much effort into redoing our studio, I do have a passion and a love for, decorating and that sort of a thing. So it just naturally happened that my clients, even 15 years ago, would say, "Can you just come to my house and tell me what to get or redo my walls?" Well, I was not in a place for that back then. I actually would have loved to, but it's like, holy cow, no, I'm shooting 300 sessions. I don't have time to go into every client's home and help them do all these things. And so it is funny to think back now, 15, 20 years later, that I'm actually doing that. And it is something that I've always loved. I've had a passion for, not trained in or anything, but I've just always, whatever house we've lived in and whatever we've done, I have a knack for that and I love it. So it's fun to be able to do that for my clients.
Yeah, you're so good at creating a space that feels homey, but also has like an artistic design to it.
Well,
definitely.
And it's been funny. I mean, this year, what's happened is, I'm implementing things that aren't my photography in the work I'm doing with them as well. So I go into their home, and honestly, by the time I get home, I usually am getting texts from clients like, "Hey, you know what? I already got online and ordered those ledges from Pottery Barn that you told me about, or this from IKEA, or I ran to Hobby Lobby and picked up this cool sign that we're going to incorporate with this wall grouping." So it's pretty cool to see, like people just visually need that help for me to be able to show them, hey, this is what it would look like, or giving them that suggestion or making them feel confident in those decisions. People get, I think, kind of stuck and worried and not sure what it's going to look like, or is this the right choice? And so to have somebody that, they've hired me as a professional, they want, you get the professional's opinion, and then you just feel more confident making those decisions.
And I feel like, a lot of people just don't know how to shop photography. So that's really what you're helping them with. I tell a lot of people that, photography is equivalent of buying a car, but the auto industry spends billions of dollars a year to, and educate you on how to buy a car. But, it's the same process for photography, but they just don't really have help. So to have somebody actually hold their hand and give them confidence in their decision, I think is huge. One other question: do you feel like, so you've downsized a little bit and obviously have less overhead? I mean, do you feel like you're making as much money now? Because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm making as much money now as I was when I had 9 employees." Or do you feel like you're making less money, but it's better choices for you and your family?
I would say right now, I mean, you're catching me at a time where we haven't even finished our first season being back home.
Okay.
So it's hard to say. I even honestly, my husband, he's not as involved in the business anymore. He'll even ask me that question. I'm like, ask me in December. I still have so many clients that we're still working on their orders that it's such a big swing between now and the next 2 months where we'll end up. But for the amount of time being spent, and I'm making more I'm working smarter, not harder,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
sure, no, it's not the same as when I was shooting, 300 sessions, because even in those days, I was high dollar, high volume. It wasn't low dollar, high volume, but I wasn't having typically as high of orders as I'm having some of them now, but it's way less. I might do this year, I'm thinking, I might be on track of shooting 60, 70 sessions.
Sure.
Now, next year, maybe that'll double. I mean, we just moved back at last Christmas and spent basically the first half of the year redoing the space. And we actually moved into the studio space. We rezoned it, and it's about a 7,000 square foot building. We live in half of it as our home. And then we have a couple of renters, and then we have the studio has about 2,500 square feet. So we had major things we were redoing that we weren't even really like up and running and shooting again until almost summer.
So are you guys going to put a bowling lane back in now since you live there?
No. Everybody asked.
That would be so awesome.
It would be. We do have the lanes and a couple of the pins and stuff that we use as tables, but not actually functioning. No.
Okay,
you guys do a lot of fun things. I don't know if you have to. You could put in like a bocce ball court or something like that. I could see that.
Oh, we've played bags inside. My kids rollerblade throughout the space.
I bet you do.
Their friends come over. They do like gymnastics and flips, and I mean, it's the main living space has really tall ceilings, so they're having fun with it. Our kids are 5 and 9, and they think it's great. Living here. I mean, at some point we might outgrow it a little bit, but it's working really well right now.
So Vicki, our next question for you is, now that you're really back in with both feet in the photography industry, what are you most fired up or excited about with the photography industry? Because you said just, recently you said you feel a lot more hope for the industry. And so what makes you have that hope?
I think that's multifaceted, because there are some things that I feel like the industry has definitely changed and it's shifted.
Oh, yeah.
We all know that, there's a lot more people shooting and burning, which definitely, we do sell digital files actually, but they're at a high dollar, price after the clients have placed an order for portraits. So,
yes.
I feel like that's one of the things that I was nervous about, that made me like, oh, do I have hope, where this industry is going? But It's been cool because I've actually feel like what I've experienced in coming back, I shot more seniors this year without even trying than I've shot in years. And it was very shocking to me because I would have always put myself out there as definitely more like children and family photographer. And I didn't see really a ton of children's photography, but I definitely, and Kaya, you and I had a conversation a couple weeks back that this really like a light bulb went off for me. This really came from you confirming what I was seeing, which is I've seen tons of value and great orders with my family sessions, and an actual increase with my senior sessions. And what I think is interesting about that, and that gives me a lot of hope. Now I would like to figure out a way to kind of up my game with children's sessions because I really do love to do that. But I've found that, per our conversation, Kaya, and I think you're correct, is that, it's a lot easier for people to daily capture images of their children on their phone. We know it's not a replacement of what we do, but that is something that people definitely have lots of images of their kids. But there's still this like big thing when you're in high school senior and like that whole experience that we do with them and all the outfits and going on location that you can't really duplicate on your phone. That people are still willing to come in and do that and do albums, all these things. And then of course we all know with families, that's just a whole nother ballgame. Like there's a whole experience on posing and how you're interacting with people and bringing them together that you cannot just duplicate that with a snapshot on your phone. So I think that embracing the things that you see that you enjoy, but that also you see the industry can still support and there's a need for and people are willing to pay for. That's what I feel like kind of gives me that hope, as well as what I mentioned with just being more hands-on. Like I think that it's become more important than ever to improve and give an amazing experience to your clients. So that doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're the one going in and measuring and doing the sales in the home or whatever that looks like for you. I'm not saying that, but I do think it means offering that good of a service. Like that's what's going to make you stand apart from somebody who really might not be commanding that much money to just turn files over. Like why do you stand apart? Why should somebody spend X amount more money with you? What are you doing that's different? And so I think that that's more important than ever. Like the experience that you're offering your client from start to finish, whether that's just you or employees helping you with that process, that you need to, really think about that and what can you do that's different than the competitors in your area. And I think that I really think that's it. I mean, I think it's that, the middle, I've heard that for years, but like, I think that middle class kind of clientele, like that middle of the road, photographer who can't decide to be high end, low end, whatever, like I think that's going away. Like, I think that golf is becoming bigger where it's either like, you are commanding high prices, but you're giving an amazing experience. People are willing to pay for that. Or it's like shoot and burn, low dollar. I feel like that golf has become bigger. So you
And I
kind
think and I think that's true in like all businesses.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that from all kinds of thought leaders around the nation and all kinds of industries, that the middle is a really, really scary place, that people either want convenience and cheap or they want a full experience. They don't want something in between that feels like it's an expensive turn and burn or it's not quite the experience. They want to know exactly what they're buying, either complete value or complete experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I think the cool thing that I have experienced this year is, for 20 years, we've taught the concept of selling the experience and the importance of giving your clients a good experience. And then you have them as clients for life and they'll keep coming back. Well, it's been really cool to actually experience that because we left the state. We lived in Minnesota for 5 years. My business, I was still shooting, but it definitely was not something I was putting near as much time into. And, just this past year and moving back to see the support and the people coming back and the people excited about us coming back and the people, willing to invest in our business again really was, one of the pinnacles of getting me excited about being back and shooting again. I came back not having a clue what we were getting into. In all honesty, where we live in central Illinois, our community, it used to be the headquarters for Caterpillar. And it was just in the last year or two that Caterpillar moved those headquarters to Chicago. And so that really, that put people kind of on edge, a little bit afraid, I feel like, to spend money. And where is this, put us as a business, selling a luxury type item. And so I had some fears coming back, can this be supported? Can we still do this? And it's been exciting to see that absolutely people are still excited and willing to come in and invest in portraits.
That's exciting. Yeah.
So let me ask you kind of a follow-up question to that. It kind of moves into our lightning round a little bit, but because you talked about kind of your reservations about moving back and starting up a business, but what was holding you back when you first started, 20 years ago? What was in your mind in terms of making the full plunge into photography, or was there anything?
I just tell people the truth, which is we were kind of young and stupid. We probably had no business making some of the decisions we made, in all honesty. Like, it was a little more probably the fake it till you make it, which I would not, sit here and tell you, hey, go do this, like do the steps that we did. Cause that was pretty scary. We took on a lot with like buying a large building, tons of employees. It worked out, like our business did succeed. And I think part of it was hand in hand why it succeeded for us, but it just as easily could have probably gone the other way. Like we really did take on a lot of debt and made some pretty, they probably weren't the smartest financial decisions, but, we always do tell people too, we didn't have kids, we were young, and we weren't really making money doing the other stuff we were doing before photography, that it was kind of like when you don't have a lot, you don't have a lot to lose. Like we were really in a place of, worst case scenario, we do all this, we move in with your parents. Yeah. Like that was like that reality that we were, kind of living with. Whereas now the risks are so much greater. We got 2 little kids, we would make different decisions now, but I think that a lot didn't hold us back. We were pretty like on fire and excited about making something work. I would say even back then, one of the things though, there was some negativity. Like there were definitely people who at the time, there weren't as many young women in the industry, not like there is now. And so I think there was a little bit of pushback, from some of the seasoned older photographers that felt like, well, who do you think you are, in just a couple years, commanding these prices or having this big business or being out there teaching. So some of that I think were some of that if I had listened to those lies, and internalized that, it might have prevented us from making some of the decisions we had made. So I'm thankful that, we pushed through that and didn't believe those things. And I think people even now today, I mean, there's way more young men and women, jumping into this industry on a daily basis. So, I think that, focusing on doing what you love and investing in education and, hopefully, I've always believed in teaming up with other people who might have strengths that you don't have. So, whether it's somebody with the financial stuff, business stuff, employees, just like finding those people to help support you to make good decisions. That's always been something we've believed in from the beginning. So not that we've always done it right, but, that's what I would challenge people to do.
Yeah, that's great. So on that note, then, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
We've received lots of advice. One that just just kind of came to mind when it comes even to employees was to hire slowly and fire quickly. And we did not always follow that. And I will say we got burnt because of that. Definitely. So all I mean by that is like, even right now, I've struggled with this move back of, oh my gosh, we're so busy. I feel so busy because I'm doing so much of the work. Like we should hire some people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've totally been here before. I've done this before. That's not necessarily the answer, like you need to look at all the pieces. Like maybe there's something I can be outsourcing or finding a way to do something smarter, or like Jed could automate, some of the workflow for me in Lightroom or Photoshop. I guess I would just challenge people to, really try to automate systems and have a workflow that works for them, to work smarter, not harder, and not just jump on that bandwagon of, oh, I got to, hire somebody or, really taking on more overhead that maybe you don't need to do.
Yeah.
To really research out your options.
Yeah. When I switched over and started my own business, I wasn't planning to hire anyone. And the people that work for me came to me and said, I'm working for you. I don't care if you even pay me.
That's awesome.
I think that when you have people who are that motivated to work with you and help grow your business and have you as the focus, your business as their focus, and it's not about them, that's so different. And I think that takes time. And it depends on your personality too. Like for me, one of the reasons I work is, obviously I need to support my family, but I just like the personal interaction, and I'll go and sit at work and talk. And so
Yep.
I do love that. But like you said, yes, definitely not jumping into it, not forcing things is so smart.
Well, yeah. So like right now, like we have the most amazing employee, Tracy. She has been here. We hired her before we moved to Minnesota, and she is who ran the business the 5 years we were gone. Yeah. And she's incredible. And like she's been here. My other two employees are my sister who lives in South Carolina, who has been with us since the beginning doing retouching. And then Kate, who is contract, who we just hired to do like some of our design projects, design books, and things like that. And so,
but Kate's worked for you for what, 10?
More than that, probably 15 years. So, yeah. We do have these 3 employees. They're all part-time or contract, but I think having I agree with you, like having that amazing staff and team member, like they would be very hard to replace. And they really did find us. It's that same thing. Like it wasn't just like, we randomly went out and hired a bunch of people, which I know can be hard. So, sometimes people do need to hire employees, and where do you find them? But I think having just a good team is a big, big deal. But I think that piece where I said the hire slowly, fire quickly, on the flip side, what that means is we've had at least 2 to 3 times over the years, like somebody who their time was it was obvious, it was up with us and for different reasons. And because of me not being the best manager of people, like I would never say like, that's my strength, oh, I feel bad. Oh, I don't want to let him go. Oh, whatever. Like it really can end up not being good for either of you guys, and end up harming even some of the other employees, if they're really in a position that they shouldn't be there anymore. Yeah. And so that's the fire quickly piece. And what's been interesting, even the people I can think of that happened with, when we finally did get to that space, like they ended up in good places where like probably ended up better for them anyway.
Yes,
It's like,
absolutely.
why
They're not hurting.
prolong? Like, it's better for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome.
Matt?
So Vicki, share one of your personal habits that you think contributes to your success. To your success.
I think I love people. So as far as like my clients really end up becoming my friends. So I think, sure, I need to be able to go into the camera room and know how to light and make somebody look good. But I think it's also just as much about making them feel comfortable. I'm not working with professional models. So it's like making them feel comfortable and relaxed. And I've always said that, if like high school age guys or the dad, when they leave a session, they're like, that was kind of fun, or that wasn't half bad. That's one of the biggest compliments I can get, because a lot of times they might be the ones just showing up because of mom, like they're doing this for mom. They're not looking forward to it. That if I can make the experience fun, and they're excited to see, the images when they come back for the sales appointment, then that's where I've succeeded. Well, and I think that even leads into something I didn't really mention that was a big change for us, that before we moved to Minnesota, so 6 years ago, everything was pretty much in-person sales. So even though I wasn't the one doing the sales, I had an employee doing the in-person sales. And so we had good sales with that. Like, I'm a big believer in that. But the reality is, when we moved to Minnesota, but my business was still in Illinois, and we didn't really have the staff to pull it off, that didn't always happen. So we were a mix of online, in-person sales, and it was just kind of like shoot, and hopefully people would order. Yeah, they ordered, but I absolutely know they didn't order as much as they would have with an in-person sale. So I think those 8 years, those 5 years, we dropped the ball some. We definitely left money on the table with that, but it's been exciting. That's why it makes this year, I think, all the more exciting though, because I was afraid to come back, because most of my clients are repeat clients. They've been with me for years. So I was a little nervous that they might push back on that a little bit. So now I'm home, I'm doing the sales. Nope, we're not just going to throw them online for you. And it has been a non-issue, like absolutely non-issue. They're way more excited about coming in, doing an in-person sale, getting my opinions. I can help them through that process. So they've actually seen it, I feel like, as a positive. So I think, just in-person sales in general, that has been a huge thing, a huge impact on our success. And we have the numbers to prove that, this year, because we used to do it. We didn't stop doing it, but we did it less. And now we're full all in doing it again. And we've had the numbers to prove that it's working well.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. I just had a client the other day say, can you just send me a link to the pictures? And I was like, no, definitely can't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not the service. And that's what you're providing for everyone, is that service.
Right. Like, we almost have to untrain them from what they've been trained by other photographers, or in my case, the way I was doing it for those couple of years.
Yeah. Which I think did help your business, and the fact that you didn't drop out altogether.
Right.
And so they didn't have to find someone else to replace their photography needs, but now they're getting your full service, and I'm sure they're so happy for it.
Absolutely. Yep.
So our next question is for you to recommend an internet resource. And if you want to, tell us about like your kind of connections, what Jed's doing with his podcast, but then also if you have any like internet resource that you are loving using, or something new you've discovered, we'd love to hear that too.
Sure. Well, so I guess I'll talk about Jed real quickly first. So, because it will kind of tie into the next question, I think, but,
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So my husband, Jed, he has been involved with the photography industry, honestly, since the beginning of our studio. So for almost 20 years, but not always as part of the studio. So for the last 9 years, he's had a presence at the studio, but he actually started working for White House Custom Color, who has been our lab pretty much since the beginning. And that's why we lived in Minnesota. So now he currently is a podcaster for them, and really having a lot of fun with that. It's been super cool seeing him in his element. He's really good at it. And it's been really fun. Like, it's been a really great experience for him.
And what's the name? Is it This Conversation?
This Conversation. Yep.
Okay.
This Conversation. And it's sponsored, or it's through White House Custom Color. And honestly, when you say what online resource or internet service or something that we're excited about or using, it's actually through White House. It's their card editor. So
I saw that.
oh my
I
gosh,
wondered about it.
Oh, that has absolutely changed how we've done things with cards. So, I mean, for many years, we've offered holiday cards, grad cards, for years and years and years, made them all custom, a lot of time and investment in that, and commanded pretty high prices. Well, what we've seen in the industry in general, I mean, obviously we know our clients now, a lot of times with photographers, have access to their digital files. There's lots of online resources where they can order cool cards. That has not, it's been harder to stand out, in that kind of arena with our business. And so what we've found has been an amazing solution, because now the time involved is way less, is White House. I think it's been almost a year and a half now, maybe even 2 years, that they came out with the card editor. But basically, it's an online ordering system that you don't even have to go into Photoshop, where you're dragging and dropping the images, changing the text, the color, the layouts, that it makes the ordering process so fast and easy that either myself or even my employee who doesn't use Photoshop can create designs for clients really quickly. So the investment or the time investment that, we used to put into making cards isn't so much, which is great, because, it's become more challenging for us to sell cards. So, for us to take a few minutes to mock up some designs, we don't have much in the game. You know what I mean? It's not as big of a deal as like we used to spend so much time custom designing each card that now, to compete with all these other sites that, people can drag and drop in their images, real quickly to get cards. That's made it a lot easier for us to keep doing that, especially with less employees. Like before, I would just have all these employees designing them. Well, now, I'm saying it's just me and a couple part-time employees. If that's me designing them, I love having something that's quick and easy.
And so are you designing them live in front of the customer?
No,
or
nope,
okay. So it's just a Photoshop
so,
replacement.
The way we've used it 2 different ways. We have used it for pre-selling. So actually, at times we've used that where we will, even before the client comes in or as part of their in-person sale, mock up a few designs and just do a screenshot, or there's even a little proof link you can get that will be part of their slideshow. So even if that's not the card that they get, that would be something like, hey, have you thought about doing, Christmas cards or grad cards? Then you're showing them, hey, this is something that we offer, even if they end up doing something else. Or it's after the fact. They pick out which images and text they want, and then we can mock up a couple designs. And, that's where we definitely are using online services, though. We'll email them proof links, and stuff like that is super easy. We don't make them come back in to view designs and stuff. So
and does White House charge anything for it, or is it just
no? You
suite?
can just, anybody can go online right now to just their website, the WHCC website, and if you click on their section with the cards and click on ordering, it'll take you right to that site. And they have it built in a way that's pretty sweet, that for a photographer who maybe isn't doing in-person sales but wants to offer cards, you can actually copy a link that you can send your clients that's unbranded. So they're not actually going to order from it, but at least could show them a lot of the designs and things like, hey, so it's nice. It's a nice way to just hey, look, we offer this. If there was somebody, say, that's never done cards, and they want to start offering that, it would be a really easy way to kind of test the waters. Hey, if you pick one of these out, I can make this for you. And it would be really easy for someone to do that. And actually, the other thing that they have that I love, that every single one of my clients get, is their inspiration guides. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but there's actually an online link, but then they have actual these adorable magazines that they've created for newborns, families, weddings, high school seniors, that are completely unbranded, they just sell them for $1 a piece. And so I just have a whole bunch of those in my studio that every client, if I go do the consultation in their home, at the sales appointment, or at their session, they get a copy, because what it is, it's basically what it sounds like. It's an inspiration guide. So it is full of like all the products that we can do and offer. But it doesn't say White House on it. It doesn't say any other photography information on it. And I tell people this is just for you to get excited to see, some of the things we can do, wall groupings, and it shows, gallery wraps framed and all the different products, the albums. So it's just to get them excited. And then they come in with me to actually pick out their specific products. But it's just a great way to kind of get, again, the foot in the door of selling prints, selling products. And if there's somebody who, let's say right now, they're just shooting and burning or throwing images online, like what a great way. And they don't have a studio space. They don't have products to show. Like it is such a fantastic way to, again, test the waters, to see if people would be interested in buying, wall portraits or products at a very low risk.
Yeah,
hand them a magazine and they might pick something out. I think so many people leave so much money on the table by not offering prints and products. And, in my heart, I am not in the business of selling digital files. I have such a passion though for because I think that's the interior, decorator in me, the person who loves like design and the way the room looks, all the elements of it that I want to see that finished piece, on the wall. I mean,
well, and you know what else is interesting? This is kind of a sad story, but a good friend of mine who used to be my nanny, she died on Friday.
Oh my gosh.
And it's very sad, but I cannot find the digital files of a family session I did of her, which is probably like 15 years ago. And I've looked through like boxes of CDs. I've looked through the like backup drives, and one backup drive that I think they might be on, from over 10 years ago won't turn on.
Yep. Oh.
And, and then the other ones, I'm looking everywhere for like different cords to see if I can hook them together. But wow. I know for sure that she also had wall portraits of those pictures on her walls. And so I don't know if we'll be taking that good care of our digital files, if we'll be able to access them that easily. I know the cloud is there and that type of thing, but the prints and the portraits really are more of a forever than any digital files we're going to have.
Oh, and I tell clients that all the time, as far as like if they were going to buy a wall portrait or spend that money to buy some digital files, and it's the same money to me. Like if I were making the same amount of money, hands down, I would always want them to do the wall portrait. Like that to me is that's what satisfies me. Like that, feels good to me, is like I've delivered a final product, otherwise I feel like there's just like, here, I spent all this time with somebody, like preparing and shooting and sales and in their home. And if they don't end up with anything on their walls, it's very like dissatisfying, not even just from the financial standpoint, like of the just, why did we even do all this? I want you to have something on your walls that you have forever and your kids are going to love.
And that you'll be able to get to. Yeah.
And here's something I noticed this weekend for us that was a wall portrait versus digital file thing that I never noticed personally. And so we did a photo, like an expo. It was like a local What a Girl Wants expo. And we just basically took stuff we already had printed in our studio and put it in our booth, and our booth looked amazing. And there was other photographers there, and they had some 8x10s printed and some things like that. And it, our stuff just looked so much more grand. And a lot of it was not because we had it in the studio, but because we had exercised that muscle in our head a lot about printing big stuff on the wall. So it now has become like second nature. So when we go to an expo, we're like already in that mindset. We're ready to go. We have stuff to hang. We know what it looks like to hang it in a booth, let alone a home. And it just changes the philosophy of your business in a major way.
Well, and we've always, to me, sales, I don't even really like using that word sales or in-person sales. I, number one, think of it as like the clients are investing in me as an artist, but it's also, I look at it as an education process. And if nothing else, that's what it is. It's like, you know what? I'll show you guys, because we show like the actual size on the walls. We show their images on the walls of their home, because we can digitally do that, that we're just educating them. If they look at that and that's not what they want, fine, but if like, I don't show them, hey, this is what it could look like on your walls, there is no way that most clients even understand what those images look like large on their walls. I think, people just tend to think, oh, a big 8x10. You know what I mean? That's just like naturally, like our images just live on our computers. They hardly get printed, just our personal photos for a lot of people that, the concept of printing something big like that, it's kind of foreign. That
And
I think
scary.
it's just, it's an education process that I actually think, I would argue that you are, doing your clients a disservice if you're not showing them their images big, because they really don't know what they would look like big. They're just seeing what they look like on a computer screen, small. They have no idea how beautiful that could look maybe as a grouping, on their wall, unless you're showing them that. So, I mean, I believe very strongly like that's a big part of why people are hiring me as the professional is like that's what they want me to show them. That's what they're going to get that they aren't going to necessarily get elsewhere.
Awesome. Okay. So final question before we wrap up. If you could recommend a book to our audience, what book would you recommend and why?
Okay. You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a big reader.
That's totally fine. I feel for a long time in my life, I hated reading.
Yeah.
I think it was like holdovers from 7th grade, but
nope. I'm going to pass on this one. That's just me being honest. I'm not a big reader. I do way more, just kind of reading different random things online, talking to different people, asking their advice on different things, than sitting down reading, sitting down to read a full book.
Yeah. And I agree. I think networking can be super powerful, because then you can ask specific questions where a book is just kind of telling you what's going on. When you can kind of dialogue back and forth with somebody, sometimes that's way more powerful.
And Kaya actually is one of those people that would come to mind. I say, Kaya is my favorite book right now.
I was going to say, I'm like, I know she's heard about several books recently because I'm like, let me tell you exactly what happened in this book. I'm like a synopsiser.
Oh, totally. You're my Cliff Notes. Absolutely.
I do. I'm
that's truly like, that is, I feel like that's a cop out, but that's the truth. Like I will just reach out directly to people who I feel like are an expert in their field or who I know might have a good answer or solution. And, I do that. So,
and I think your guys' group of friends does that the best, like getting to know all you guys better, over the years. I think that's what I've noticed most is that you guys are not afraid to call each other on a random Tuesday and ask hard questions of each other, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well, that's your stay up late at night. Now the funny thing is I could send you a snapshot of the book cases and cases and cases of books in our house, and that you kind of laugh because there's lots of them in there.
But Jed reads them, right? Jed's
my husband. Yeah, so that's obviously he reads a lot, and I'm like, hey, tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I bet you Jed would have a list of 10 immediately.
For sure.
That's fun. So, Vicki, we would love to end with a parting piece of guidance. I know you've talked a lot about in-person sales, but I would love for you to touch on just family work balance just a little bit and what you're learning from it, because I feel like you have just really, it's so important to you and you really struggle to just make it work for you. And so I would love to have that last gift for the audience from you. And then also where they can find you.
Yeah. That one is interesting for me because I will say, number one is it constantly changes. So what my work-life balance looks like, year to year, day to day is very different. Obviously this year, both kids are in school full time. So that changed quite a bit. I've been able to put more time into the business without feeling like, hey, maybe this balance is off. Versus like when we first moved back, I will say like, I don't think I did great on that work-life balance because I felt this pressure to get the studio done and the house done. And our son was still not in school full time. And so that was challenging. But I also have learned to be a little more loving to myself because I could catch myself really beating myself up of being like, oh my gosh, I'm not able to do all the things that I want to do for the kids. And maybe the business is taking me away from too much. But the fact that I'm even aware and constantly trying to find that balance, I think that's what's important. Because sure, you'll have days where maybe you're working long hours at work, and like to be okay with that as long as you're aware of like, I don't want it to always be this way. How can I set things up so that I'm not, like the next time something comes up that I can go to whatever I want to go to for the kids. But, it's also okay if maybe I miss a soccer game because I have a sale. Like and I think the big thing I've learned is how great it is for my kids to see, like, hey, mommy works, like that's okay. In fact, I have one story to share that really, I think, changed this for me just in the last couple of months. I was struggling with like, am I working too much? Am I getting pulled away from some of the things I want to do with the kids? Even though I do a ton of stuff with my kids and in their school and I'm involved with them. It's like, am I in balance? Am I doing this right? And I was questioning it a little bit. And somewhere something happened that I can't even remember the specifics, but that it came up with like, I don't know if I was just kind of joking or somebody said something that my daughter, she heard it as mommy wasn't going to be a photographer anymore. And her reaction was like, no, mom, you have to be. Like, she was so like distraught. I'm like, honey, I'm still doing the studio. Like, I'm a photographer. But, I would have maybe been thinking like, oh, does she harbor bad feelings against photography because she knows that's what takes me away from always being 100%, available to her. And it was the opposite. Like, she loves that she can see I do something that I love, that I work hard at it, that I get satisfaction from it. They understand the concept of money, and like mom and dad work to make money to, be able to pay for our house and the things we have here. And so I think that, just being aware of those things. I think this day and age with social media and Pinterest and all the things that can make us think like from the outside, oh, this is what I need to be doing. Like my life needs to look this picture perfect Pinterest party all the time. I think really realizing that that's not reality for anybody and to not beat yourself up, if, when your life looks more like a Pinterest fail. And I think having a good community, I think that's a big piece too, like to help keep you in check, that you have that balance, because sometimes we're not the best people to kind of see ourselves. It's like having people that you trust that are close to you, whether that's a spouse, a best friend, someone you work with, that, you trust enough that they're going to speak into your life if they see things are maybe a little bit off or off balance. So I think, being open to those relationships and people to speak into your life is one of the best things that you can do. And when you mess up or when you think, hey, things aren't in balance, I think just acknowledging it, being aware of that and just constantly striving for what your goals are, setting those goals and working towards them and, being very clear about that. And I think, it sounds so cliche, but, enjoying the journey, not just that end result.
Pinterest perfect ending.
Yeah. So that's what I think about the work-life balance.
Yeah.
Awesome. So share real quick how our audience can connect with you. Like, can they find you on social media or, your website and all those different things?
Sure. Yep. We're on all of that. So Instagram, it's just V Taufer. So for Vicki Taufer, that's Taufer. And you can also find me on Facebook as well that way. And V Gallery Photo on Facebook. And yeah, that's it. So basically Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow our vintage orange camper. We do actually a lot of fun things with the studio with our vintage orange camper as well, but that's the Tin Mango. So you can follow the Tin Mango on Instagram as well.
Awesome.
I didn't realize that the Tin Mango had an Instagram.
It has its own Instagram. Yeah, we're doing some fun things with that. But no, mostly it's V Taufer on Instagram. Yep.
All right. Thanks so much, Vicki, for being on the podcast. So I know you're not going to plug yourself, so I'll just do it for you. So you can also find Vicki at vgallery.net. And she also has some stuff for photographers at vgalleryhaven.com. And so that's vgallery and then haven.com. So thanks so much, Vicki, for being on the podcast. I wish the best for you and Jeb as you guys restart your studio in Illinois. And I hope to connect with you more in the future. And hopefully we can get together sometime and sit down and have lunch together. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Vicki. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya. Be sure to subscribe for more business strategy and ideas to help you create the profitable and successful business you've always wanted. See you on the next episode of From Nothing to Profit.